are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Good afternoon. This is Tony Rogers here, your host for Urbanology, the Art of War. I hope all is well with everyone. It's been an interesting time that we have been in. I just returned with my good friend and partner, Richard Cox from Ghana, and Richard will be our guest for today. I have never, we're moving towards the end of 2024, and there are a lot of really interesting things happening. I know a lot of people have been in the dumps about who's going to be our next president, but I encourage people to, hey, look, you got to keep on keeping on. No matter, we've gone a long way with things that were a lot worse than what they can possibly be, as far as I can see, at any rate. So it's just a way to begin to tighten up your belts and bootstraps and go on and do things. There's a lot of stuff happening. As I said, we'll talk a little bit about Ghana. The Harlem Double Dutch. Richard Cox has a handle on many of the Harlem sport initiatives that's going on. There's also on the 12th a Christmas tree lighting and an opening to a new mobile wellness center, which we'll talk about actually next week, but we'll have a soft opening on the 18th and the 19th of December of this mobile wellness technology that will bring healthcare in the homes of people if necessary, in nursing homes and the like. No more long waits unnecessarily. Well, it's always necessary when you go to ER, but once you have gone through that process, sometimes the diagnosis is take a couple of these pills and call me in the morning. But we can eliminate a lot of that, and and the first clinic like that is going to be in Harlem on Malcolm X and 144th Street, the Meadowlink Wellness Clinic. So there's a lot to talk about, but what I would like to do is to bring on my travel partner, uh, Vice President of the Harlem Tourism Board. I serve as the president, and we represented Harlem in Ghana with a number of people from different parts of the country. And it was a fabulous situation. Matter of fact, if you pick up this, the, the 28th of those November edition of Harlem Community News, there's an interesting story about our trip. But please, I'd like for you to welcome my good friend and partner, Richard Cox. Can't hear you. We gotta.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, just like the commercial.
Well, it's always a great experience being on your show, Tony. I was watching the beginning of the show, and I saw that little 2-second clip of me when we did a show back in the studio some years ago. But like I always say to you, I always enjoy coming on the show. It's always a welcome experience, and I'm looking forward to discussing a few things with you over the next next hour or so.
Well, there's a lot that's happening. We need to get into the double Dutch, but before we do that, let's do a little report on our trip to Ghana, the northern region in Tamale.
Well, I'm going to put my glasses on for that so I can refer some notes. But the experience is more than what a lot of people would imagine. We're looking at a travel experience that only a few can actually engage in, and we'll talk about that few a little bit later on. But for those who have not had the experience of traveling to the continent of Africa, most notably the nation of Ghana, is something that you might want to take a look at, especially if you're a person who's very interested in the history, most notably the slave trade history, and also the innovations that came out of Western Africa that has impacted the Western world here in the United States, most notably. But just to summarize it, it really is something that a lot of us should experience. Basically, looking at the slave trade, looking how it started in the northern region, how the folks traveled all the way through to the southern region, to the exit points, and then, of course, on its way to the Western world. So,
yeah, and one of the things that for those who follow Facebook and Instagram, I've got a lot of our pictures of you dancing and me dancing and in the village and becoming warriors in the Talon tribe. And again, as I was saying, if you can pick up the Harlem Community News, harlemcommunitynews.com, if you go online, there's a story that talks about a lot of that. But the important thing that I was able to experience, and I've been to, the Ivory Coast and have some business relationships and friendships in Senegal. But this was my first trip to Ghana. And first thing that really impressed me is that many of the people that I came in contact with could tell by my accent that I was from the U.S. And their whole thing was welcome. That's kind of big there. And it's just, the people are so welcoming. I guess that's the best way that I can put it. And in the northern region, I almost feel a little guilty because we're talking about doing development and bringing a lot of stuff there, and it's really an untapped paradise.
Yeah.
We were in a village that was we show what slave trade and how people had carved out their food bowls in rocks, and the water that they were drinking that's green now but is clear. And this village was one of the villages that fought off the slave traders after they found out what was going on.
Yeah.
Well, after they found out that, because they thought that their people were being taken for a better life.
Right.
When they got the real deal, they not only fought off the slave traders, but they fought off the African, the Ashanti, who was working for the slave traders, because the slave traders couldn't go up. They knew that they weren't going up north. So they had to get Africans to go up, and they fought them off. But I say that to say the village that we went in, that we were welcomed in, and they have not changed. A lot of the stuff that's there is the same as it was before the slave trade came in. Some of those customs and things are still there. And that's what was amazing to me, because I could, for the first time, see what it was like before the colonizer came in, really, And that experience in itself is worth the trip for me, because you come full circle, and to be welcomed and be considered a warrior. And one of our colleagues now is a chief who has land. A brother from Alabama is now a chief.
Yeah.
And has all of this land to develop. So those are the things that, as you say, it's not like a trip. It's an experience.
No, it's an experience. And, going to the village, the city of Tamale, which is part of the northern region, which is its capital city. When we venture to Ghana, a lot of folks only venture to Accra, and they may go to Kumasi. But rarely do people actually go up north to Tamale, which is interesting, because all the people that we spoke to, all the people that we engaged with, even those from the south who travel with us to the north, if you ask them from the south, they were actually challenged by their own people in the south, saying, why do you want to go up north?
Exactly.
What's there for you? There's nothing up north you should see.
They're a country. They live in huts.
Right. It's like us being here in New York and someone telling us, why should we go to Chicago? Why should we go to LA? Why should we go to Denver or Dallas or Miami? There's nothing there for you. It's almost that type of segregation that's what's happening within that actual state itself. But as we know, those who travel to us from the south and venture to the north for the very first time, they too had an experience similar to us about, wow, this is in my own country. All I have to do is travel a couple of hours to the north, and it's a brand new experience. And you're right, Tony. In several locations we visited, it was almost as if time did not change. It is almost that they transcended some of the things they were doing several decades ago, even centuries ago.
Centuries.
And still put a modern twist to it, but the tradition is still alive. Yes, when we went to the slave camp, when we went to Piccolo slave camp, we actually saw exactly how things were done hundreds of years ago.
We even were able to pet alligators with people who had developed relationships with alligators, which is deep.
Well, I love going to Paga. As the pictures, will attest. I love the experience of being with the crocodiles. I love
crocodiles, not alligators.
I love
they all look the same to me, but
right. And the first time I actually had a chance to be with the crocodiles, I was being a typical person, not understanding how to approach them, and I actually approached the crocodile an incorrect way. I went
in the
straight
front.
ahead.
No, you don't want to do that.
when I should have went around to the side and, tried that technique. But, thankfully, I've learned from my experience of how you actually approach a crocodile. And so this time when I did it, it was a lot easier. I was able to go there with much confidence. But it was interesting. I don't know if you take a look at the pictures, the crocodile did not move for anyone else really except for me.
And you remembered your
and the crocodile actually turned a little bit, almost to say, "I remember you."
And you look good then, and you look good now.
Right.
But
so that was perhaps like one of the highlights of the experience. Also being involved with dancing with the folks from the village. That always is an interesting experience. Dance, as we know, is like a language. It carries on tradition. There's messages behind the dancing.
And you can see things. Remember, there were dancers. There's a dance that they do the bump. Remember how we used to do the bump? And I was saying, oh, so that's where that came from.
Right. And, it's so true, because the last time I was there, I highlighted several dancing exhibitions. And this bump technique, was highlighted. And not only is it highlighted, if you remember the youth forum that we were involved in,
yeah,
and the youth had a chance to report on things that actually they want more tourists to experience, they actually referenced that dance. And they said that one of the experiences that you must have is get out there and experiencing that bump dance, because that was a way of bringing folks together. That was a way of experiencing lifestyle. That was just a climactic experience of being involved in that type of dance.
Yeah, I have a short piece on Facebook, and I was dancing, and I said, when the spirit hits, you got to get on up, So I mean, with the drums and all of that stuff. But we have a number of things, but I just wanted people, 2025, we're going back in December 2025. This is an annual event of bringing the diaspora together. We're looking to have the dates hopefully before this year ends.
Yeah, we're hoping to have the dates, Tony, before the end of the calendar year for 2025. We all know that Ghana at this time goes through an election period. That's one of the main reasons why this year's festival was held in November, because Ghana right now is involved in
December the 7th, I believe.
Yeah, right. December the 7th would be their election day. So it was better for us to come in November, but next year we'll be coming in December of 2025. But, like you said, Tony, we would have to start prepping people now.
Yeah.
Doing some research, and, your followers can actually do some fact checking behind this. We just have to take a look at the percentage of folks here in America, especially folks that represent the African community here in America, that actually have passports.
Passports and visas.
Passports, right? The ability to travel. And, I took a quick look some time ago, and basically roughly 3 out of 10 Africans living in America have a passport.
Well, a lot of people do not leave their block or their neighborhood, less known the country, on a plane.
Yeah. And sadly enough, I shouldn't say sadly, but interesting enough, the majority of the African population in America that have passports is the female population.
Which makes sense.
Right. Females outnumber men in the African community when it comes to the number of passports possessed.
But on the plus side, and I did an article about this, Black, not even, I should say African and Caribbean Americans are $1 billion travel industry. They spend over $1 billion in travel. They don't necessarily go to Africa, but the ones who do have the passports use them. And one of the things that we're looking to do is to allow for them to understand that rather than going to somebody else's home, if you go to your home, you can make investments. I mean, one of the things that's good, Richard, a lot of people don't go to the North, but then there's the diamonds, there's the gold, there's the shea, but there's all of those things in the North that are still open for business opportunities, which the timing, could not be better, especially the way things are going here. So those are the things that I would think that people should be aware of.
Yeah, but Tony, you probably, well, we'll say it like this: we are not part of the natural resource community. We are part of the process resource community. So in other words, we will not go out and invest in diamonds and gold and so forth from its natural state, but we'll go to a retail store and purchase diamonds and gold that's been processed and brought here to America. The good thing about the northern region of Ghana that we surveyed, it's a farming community. It's a community that still believes in its natural resources. They still believe that the earth will provide. Whereas us here in America, we are not farmers anymore. Our farmland, as you know, is being diminished. There are some situations where we've gave up farming and looked for some sort of alternate way. We actually like to import instead of farm. So we can definitely see how that opportunity can be beneficial for us in the Northern Ghana region, because that's a community that still believes in the natural resources and also ways to extract from the earth.
And again, the idea is to become that contact, that because even though what you're saying is true, there are people that look like us that do buy gold, that do buy diamonds. And matter of fact, I have to send you the copy of the Harlem Community News that had our story in us with the chiefs or what have you. I got a call about, well, hey, it seems like you're in the northern region. We don't know anyone who we talk to from Aqua that talks about the northern region. So again, because I want to talk about some other things that you're doing, Richard, but because we could do Ghana, we could do a whole show, 3 shows about Ghana, but December we're going to be doing other stuff as relates to once we get the dates and we get time and all of that, because if you truly want to understand, doesn't make any difference whether you can trace your ancestor and you can really find out where. I'm going to do that myself. There's an African business that I would like to do it, but for me, Ghana is going to be my home, my adopted home. I was adopted by them, and I'm going to re-adopt myself. And if you want to understand what your heritage is about, that and plus they speak English. I mean, there's a dialect issue, but it's a different situation.
Yeah, I've tried my best to learn the Tweet language, and I'm starting to get it. I'm working on it.
Well, you're one of those guys, those Negroes who can speak about 6 or 7 different languages. That's why we say, is he with the CIA or something? I mean, but nevertheless,
it's really a trait of ingratiation, as they call it. I love to integrate with people. I love to have the actual experience everywhere I go. Yes, I love staying in hotels, but at the same time, I like being out there with the people. I like being out there with the families. I
Mhm.
like being out there with the nightlife.
That's why in the crowd you were staying in the Marriott, right? But that's another story. That's all right. Go ahead. I was with the people. But
But it was a way of ingratiating, getting the chance to see, how life is experienced in all the different cities in Ghana. Because this way you can make a complete package, you can learn the language and so forth, and you get a chance to experience all types of different foods and delicacies.
and I
Uh,
and I just got a message. Ghana does have dual citizenships, and we're working now to make that even easier for those who would like to explore those possibilities. So the answer is yes, you can uh, have that. And the language is English, but there are a number of different other
yeah,
dialects.
it's very interesting how people always ask, like, what languages are spoken in Ghana. I researched, there's about 40 or 45 different dialects
Hmm.
that are actually spoken in Ghana. And it goes by regions. And I can only, talk about the Twi, that's their main language, but it's all over. You just have to, it's almost like if you go here in America, if you travel to Boston, that's another accent that's being discussed. And so when we say things like ka and fa up in Boston, that's a different dialect than you go down to the southern region of the United States and they use terms like whelp. Whelp.
Hmm.
Like, what is whelp?
Or where is yonder?
Where is yonder? Exactly. You know, you know, we have to understand, how that actually exists, in Ghana. So using
But
that.
there is English is spoken also
Mhm.
to the point where you can get around. You might have to ask a couple of people. When I was trying to find a Marriott, I was asking people about the Marriott. They were giving me all kinds of different directions. And our guide said, well, I should speak to them. I said, well, I'm speaking English. What? He says, no, they don't really understand. But nevertheless, Richard, double dutch. Let's jump into, and I wanted to talk about some other sports stuff that a lot of people don't know about. But since double dutch is coming up right there, talk a
Yeah,
little
I
bit
just want to
about.
address the question that just came into the chat room about what's the best way to follow. The best way to follow this would be on the Harlem Tourism Board's website. www.goharlem.org will be the best way to get updates about the December 2025 trip. One of the things that we're going to have informational sessions regarding the experience. We want to get people tuned up. Informational
And,
sessions.
and, and, and there's a certain type of education that needs to take
Yeah,
place
yeah, yeah.
because this is, you have to have an open mind. I mean, when you go to Accra, I mean, like Richard stays in the Marriott and other people, stay other places. But nevertheless, when you go up north, you have to have an open mind and understand this is an area that's still developing, and you're not going to get all of the things that you might get if you went to Florida or or, or or someplace in Mexico necessarily. I mean, you have a good time, you have good food, but there are certain things that you have to experience. But
Right, the experience is different. Yeah, but follow the goharlem.org and you'll be able to get information about the sessions we're going to have. We're going to make sure that folks have their passports and visas in place. We're going to talk about what type of medical shots you're going to need for travel. We're going to discuss also what you can expect while being in Ghana along the 8 to 10 days that we are going to be there. So it's a full presentation that we really want you to be involved in. It also talks about how we're going to be collecting payments and so forth. So it's really something we don't want people to miss.
and again, if you go to Harlem News Group at what is it, Harlem News Harlem Community News Inc., you will be able to see the newspaper for this week. And if you can't get that, my uh, email is harlemtourismboard@gmail.com. And you can send me an email, and I'll personally, connect you to all of the stuff that you might need to know about this and other things that we're doing through the Harlem Tourism Board. But Richard was right. GoHarlem.org is where most of the information is going to be up on. And as I said before, it's an experience that you won't forget. Speaking of experiences that you won't forget, I know that many people have, especially females, have at one point in their life did double dutch. I mean, even I tried to do it a couple of times, because the sisters was doing it, and I wanted to be down with the sisters. But a couple of years ago, Richard, I knew about it because David Walker, who actually also did some other interesting things in Harlem, many years ago made that a sport, and he would do things during Harlem Week and Radio City. I mean, there were so many different opportunities, but the competition, when you go to the classic, which Richard, it's in December, the first, well, is a little different this year, but they have people doing things in double dutch that I couldn't even do walking. I mean, and all over the world, from Japan. Matter of fact, Japan, they tend to always come up with some, because they actually, I believe, Richard, they're actually, that's a national sport in Japan. So
yeah, it's done a little differently. In the Asian countries, they're looked at as a professional sport. But obviously, Tony, I just want to start out with a big legacy shout out to David Walker Sr.,
yes.
who did something phenomenal, back in the 70s, when he actually brought this sport to a different level. And I always refer to the folks involved with double dutch as athletes.
Yeah.
It is a true athletic competition. It is something that has preliminaries. It has something that has folks doing basics that are being judged and scored on, as well as a fusion competition. So when you take a look at those attributes, it is a synchronized sport as well as a fusion sport. So the next thing I keep pouncing on,
Olympics,
is that how could you have
breakdancing
in the Olympics
and not have double dutch?
So once again, a big legacy shout out to David Walker Sr., and also another shout out to his daughter, Lauren Walker, who has carried on this tradition, since David passed away back in 2008. So I'm always happy and proud to be part of the continuation of this sport and how it has expanded from the greater Harlem community to an international legacy. So
people
that's
coming
why
from France, all over the place. And North Carolina has about usually 4 or 5 buses, right?
Yeah. Well, shout out to Ray Fredericks, and him bringing, the Bouncing Bulldogs up from bringing them out there from North Carolina, from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Make sure I say Chapel Hill, because some people make the mistake with say either Raleigh or Durham, but no, they're from Chapel Hill. And bringing that type of energy from North Carolina to Harlem every year is a testament of itself, because these folks are traveling. You could just look at the distance between Chapel Hill, North Carolina, up to Harlem, and see the dedication of those kids and the parents of those kids and the guardians of those kids to make that long journey every year.
And even Kenya, Paris, all but nevertheless, the dates and the location, how people can get involved in it if it's not too late? Because I know those tickets go fast.
Yeah, the tickets go fast. And the great part about it is that this year the event is on a Saturday. So for some people who could not make a Sunday edition, this year's event is going to be on Saturday, December 7th at the world famous Apollo Theater. So there's still some tickets available because the tickets do go fast. The event starts off at 1 o'clock. So make sure you're there. Call the Apollo ticket office, box office right now. Make sure you can get some tickets to get in there and really be part of this experience every year. And this is the 33rd year. Every year is a challenging experience because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to come out on top. People always say, "Oh, well, you know, the folks that come out for representing the groups from Japan or the groups from Hong Kong may have the advantage." But as you've seen in recent years, Tony, that's not been the case.
Yeah, Brooklyn one was, even though I think it was Brooklyn. My daughter was there, and she said, "Dad, I'm not sure," but you're right. People are their games are improving.
Right. But we have to understand the judging aspect of double dutch, especially in the fusion competition, where the moves within the ropes count more than the moves outside. So yes, there are certain teams that get out there and do a lot of fancy moves, but if they're not within the ropes, then the judging is diminished. So you just have to make sure that all of your moves are within the rope. And that's one of the first things I learned. I'm so happy. I've actually been commentating the double dutch event for the last 15 years.
In different languages, depending on what the country is.
Well, you know, you
he
try
shows
to
off.
you try to work on
talking
your
French and
yeah. Yeah, you try to work on your linguistic skills when you do double dutch, you know, because I'm trying to do the ingratiation thing again. You know, I'm trying to make sure people are comfortable. So yes, I'm going to throw some words in from French. I'm going to throw some, you know, words in for what I understand my limited language of Chinese, my, you know, growing language, trying to do more in Japanese. You know, so I try to make people feel more at home. Plus, also, it's being taped internationally as well, so you don't know where the footage is going to end up. I actually did have relatives that actually traveled to Japan that actually saw, you know, the broadcast in Japan, and they were laughing because they actually heard me speak Japanese to a Japanese audience in Japan. So it was kind of comical, but you know, but again, it's a way for all of us to ingratiate and enjoy the sport. And once again, it also gives us a leeway for these athletes to be elevated to the Olympic stage. And that's one of the things that David Walker and his legacy is still out looking for that pathway to be an Olympic sport. Even if they place it as a exhibition sport, that's a start. But my goodness, it makes you go right back to breakdancing and some of these other sports that I've seen in the Olympics. And how could you overlook, you know, jump roping?
I know that Japan was looking to do it, but I think the pandemic had a lot to do with what went down in Japan, because that was their sport and they were pushing. But again, December the 7th, that's that Pearl Harbor Day, right?
Yes, Pearl Harbor Day. Yeah, I was waiting for somebody to raise that, you know.
Because Japan usually takes away, you know, the fusion. So that's going to be interesting.
We're going to try not to make any references to that, you know, if they do come out on top on that day. Yeah, we'll make sure we don't, you know, insult anyone about that. But yeah, it's actually going to be Pearl Harbor Day on December 7th.
And the other thing, Richard, that I know before we leave David Walker is Father's Day. There's a skyscraper classic, which is also a tradition in Harlem that is an attraction to world-class riders around Marcus Garvey Park. Used to be Mount Morris Park. And that's another David Walker he contributed to things that are still going on.
Let's give credit where credit is due. David Walker Sr. was a visionary.
Yeah.
Tremendous. When it came to athletic mentorship at a grassroots level.
And he was a detective, a police detective.
Right. He was a police detective. At a grassroots level, there is no other person I can think of on the face of this earth that has done more than David Walker at that level, because he ended up making two what some people might call recreational activities into the sports that we are celebrating today. Yes, we can talk about the Harlem Skyscraper Cycling Classic, which started out in 1973, at the former, Mount Morris Park, now known as Marcus Garvey Park. But you have to take a look at the opportunity of cycling events to the African community. There were none. And the experience of people of color being involved in cycling was also limited. David opened up the doors. He opened up the doors not only for the Harlem community, but he also opened up the doors for New York City to be looked upon as a cycling power. So when we do the event every year, a lot of people don't realize this. The Harlem Skyscraper Cycling Classic is one of the very few cycling events that are held outside of a New York City park. Case in point, most New York City cycling events are held very early in Central Park or in Prospect Park. No other events are held outside of a park in New York City, with the exception of the Harlem Skyscraper Cycling Classic. There's another event that takes place on Grant's Tomb, and we have some other events in Brooklyn. But other than that, the Harlem Skyscraper Cycling Classic is the premier event because it's on a New York City street and it takes place outside of a park and it goes through Harlem. And that's the reason why we're trying to make a push in 2025. And we're hoping that some of your listeners are out there that work for the city and Chesapeake Community Board 11. We're looking to expand the course in 2025. We're hopeful we can do this, where we can actually take the course and take the right turn down Fifth Avenue, go down to 116th Street, take the left, go all the way over to Madison Avenue, take the left there, and go back up to 124th Street. So we're going to expand the course of being a perfect 1.0 kilometer course and actually make it a course about 1.5 miles. So we're looking to expand that.
So we're going to do the same amount of laps, because that
well, it won't be the same amount of laps.
No, because
but the reason we're doing this is only because Harlem deserves this. Harlem deserves to be the premier cycling event in New York City. If you take a look at all the other sporting events around, I don't want to get too aggravated about certain things, but we believe that the Harlem community deserves more when it comes to the sporting aspects of New York City. We
one
go
of
on and on and on about that.
But this is going to be on Harlem. I mean, not Harlem Day, but will be on Father's Day, and it's a free event, and we'll talk more about that. But one of the things, Richard, which I commend you. I don't know how you find the time to do all these things, but you also are involved with Rucker, pickleball. What is it? Touch football?
No, it's flag football.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, so
the Olympics. Flag football will be in the Olympics in 2028. That's interesting that you say that.
So briefly, just talk about some of the teams some of the organizations that you provide guidance to.
That's one of the beauties of Team Unity, and I'm happy. Through Team Unity, we created Unity Sports Productions a couple of years ago, and I'm very happy of the people who are serving on our board. who has made a lot of these dreams come true. But we also have to recognize that Unity Sports Production has great partnerships, and that's what keeps us going. So yes, we established some great partnerships over the last couple of years with a organization that is now known as the Harlem Pickleball Association. And with this association, they're using their own skills of athletic mentorships to bring people together in Harlem and have them expand their horizons on a very interesting sport that's one of the fastest growing sports in America right now, called pickleball. I'm going to, be very truthful. I have yet to play one round of pickleball. However, I've attended many events. I see the excitement in the community. Shout out to Jerry Alexander. You probably haven't heard this name before, but I'm going to mention it now. Shout out to Jerry Alexander for being a visionary of his own right in the Bradhurst community of Harlem to bring this sport to a new level. So when I go out there and I see Jerry out there bringing folks together, and we're talking about all walks of life is coming out to Jackie Robinson Park to experience pickleball. Pickleball, Tony, pickleball in Harlem. And that being part of what we call unity, bringing everyone together, that's social community context, that's neighborhood and built environments. That goes through a lot of it actually spans upon the 5 pillars of the social determinants of health. So that's an example of a great partnership. Jude from Harlem flag football, elite flag football, that's another person. Jude Mondenstein, that's another person who I'm hopeful to get on this show so they can explain all the great work that the Harlem Elite Football or Harlem Elite NFL flag football has done for the Harlem community. Because what have they done over the last couple of years? They've actually brought together youth, brought them together under the banner of flag football and made them feel more connected to their communities. And as we already mentioned already, in 2028, flag football will be an Olympic sport. And we're hopeful that someone from this community, from the greater Harlem community, could one day compete in flag football in the Olympics. And of course, you just mentioned my involvement with the National Association Each One Teach One, which is the founding partners of Rucker Park, or as we call the Rucker Playground. And, another visionary, another great partner, the one and only Bob McCullough, who's actually been on your show several times. Between him, Freddie
Hunter,
Freddie Crawford, Bobby Hunter, it's visionaries. So I love sitting at the table with these visionaries. I love eating with these visionaries. I love drinking with these visionaries. I love that. Most of the time they pick up the bill. But the good part about it is that you're learning about the community, you're learning about development, you're learning about partnership. And that's what we need in more of this world, Tony. We need to sit down and communicate with each other through these type of forums.
Now more than ever.
Now more than ever. So,
which is why those who are listening, go to goharlem.org, join the Harlem Tourism Board so that we can be part of some of the networking things that we've talked about. We have a couple of more minutes, Richard. What I want you to talk a little bit about is the farmers market.
Again, Tony, you made a statement. You said, I don't understand how you do all these things. And I have to be very truthful and say it again. It's not me. It's not me only. It's me with great partners. And so when you have that level of partnership, working through your organization, that level of partnership, expanding the vision, things run a little bit easier. Things run a lot easier. I'm happy about the Harlem Unity Market this year. I'm so happy that we'll be returning to the Harlem State Office Building in 2025. I'm very happy that all the great things that we're doing out there addressing the social determinants of health in our community. And that has everything we're doing between education, we're talking about healthcare access, we talk about neighborhood and built environment, social community context. We're addressing food insecurity. We have great partners out there doing the work every single weekend. And because of that, bringing it all together at the Harlem State Office Building, every Saturday was a no-brainer. You're looking at the center of Harlem, right there, 125th Street, Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard. When you take a look at the statistics, we counted. We get 30 to 35 folks every minute passing on a market on the street. You put that over an 8-hour period, that's over 10,000 people. So we're looking at the impact that market could have in the community. Granted, we want more people to pass through and have a direct interaction with us. But hey, at least we're getting out there to where the people are. And that's the message we want to get out there. We want to bring these type of services and this type of awareness to the people. And we had great partnership within that. As you know, we were out there partnering with several other community groups throughout the season. We were there for 22 weeks. We had 7 partnerships over the 22-week period. And we're looking to continue this more in 2025.
Well, the plaza of the Harlem State Office Building was the site for our first Harlem Day activities. So, and we were there for many years. That was 1974 until we moved to 135th Street. That whole strip from Morningside all the way over to Malcolm X Boulevard, which we named Malcolm X Boulevard, we named Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard, we named Frederick Douglass during Harlem Week activities. The first was Adam Clayton Powell. So quite familiar with that area. Matter of fact, that's why we had to move, because there was too many people coming to do that, and it was almost impossible to control. But again, Richard Cox, I appreciate you giving us some time. One of the good things about having platforms like Soul City, WCR, Harlem Community News, is that we have, as my friend Matt McCoy always says, a chance to create our own narrative and to be able to make sure that those who are not always represented in the quote unquote media have a platform, because usually those are the people who look like us, talking about things that have a relationship with us, and it's up to us to promote them and make our own heroes and our own celebrities within our environment and the people who look back. So, Richard, you're one of those brothers. I feel really blessed to be able to, and I know you go to Convent Avenue Baptist Church where my mom went. So, when I say blessed, I'm sure you understand.
Don't shout me out where people can find me on Sunday, but it's a good place to find me on a Sunday.
But I'm blessed to be able to have the Richard Cox, the Matt McCoys, and these people in my life. It's been, Harlem Week just celebrated its 50th anniversary, so it's been a minute of being able to see how things have developed, how Harlem has developed, but more importantly, to find ways to make sure that we maintain a hold on the Harlem tourism and hospitality industry, which is one of the major goals of the Harlem Tourism Board. With all of the things, the Renaissance Hotel, the Civil Rights Museum, Trader Joe's now, and all of these things that are happening are bringing people into this area. And we who were there before all of this was taking place are not as many as it was then. And it's important to make sure that younger people who have that similar vision, thought patterns, continue that legacy, because it wasn't always this way. And not many people are still around that understood what it was like. And for those of us who are still around, it's our obligation to not only partner with the Richard Coxes and the Matt McCoys and individuals who are doing all of these things, but to try to download that experience so that it doesn't just fade away when you fade away. So again, Richard, I appreciate you, brother. You know that. Um, and I look forward to talking more about some of the activities. And I would like to have the flag football. We have to work that out
Yeah,
in 2025.
yeah, definitely. I would love for you to, just hear this story. I always think it's important for us to tell our own stories about
Very
how these folks that I've mentioned on this program impacted the community. You'll be surprised. We always talk about that one lost sheep against the 99 that are already in place. These folks will talk about how they went out and saved that one lost sheep
Mm.
and how they made that one lost sheep turn around and impact not only that one lost sheep, but the other 99 as well. So I definitely want to, work with you, Tony, to getting these folks onto your show in 2025 so they can talk about how they impacted the community.
Well, again, that's something that we'll do. And Richard, thank you for all that you do. How you do all of it, I don't know, but I'm just glad that you do. And thanks for helping me, pushing me to finally go to Ghana. I will never forget that trip, and I look forward to 2025. Anyone who has an interest in Africa, well, there are two places really: Ghana and Senegal, because you have to go to Gari Island and experience that. But Ghana, if you have to choose, and some of my brothers in Senegal may not like this, but if you have to choose, I'm saying now that Ghana should be the place if it's the first time that you're going,
Well,
because
then you should be able to say thank you in the Tweet language. Can I teach you how to say thank you?
Yeah, how do you say thank you in Tweet?
Just say Madasi.
Madase?
Madasi.
Madase.
There you go.
Madasi. Okay, I have to remember that. Madasi. I struggle with the King's English, so. But nevertheless, my ancestral relationship will allow for me to pick those things up. And Richard Madasi.
Madasi.
And that kind of wraps it up for this week. One of the things that because I will, actually, we'll talk about this next week on the show, the MedPod, Metalink Wellness Clinic that's opening up on 144th Street and Malcolm X Boulevard. Actually, the date, the exact address is 685. That is going to be a way to improve healthcare tremendously, especially for those who are not mobile. It's a mobile health clinic, and the MedPod is a major new technique that can bring healthcare anywhere. So thanks for watching, and try to tune in next week because we're going to talk about this, because our soft opening at the clinic is December the 18th and December the 19th. And you can reach me at urbanologysystems@gmail.com or the Harlem Tourism Board at gmail.com. So thanks again. Thank you, Matt McCoy. Hope to see you soon. Take care.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.